Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We have Audrey Claire. How's it going today?
Hey, good. How are you, Tom?
Doing really well. It was a started to be or tried to be a relaxing day, but not all the way around. But I guess that's what kind of happens when you have on call days, is the best way
Right,
to kind of word
exactly.
it. So
I guess you're just important.
right. I wish I wasn't that important. I wish I could just enjoy these kind of days off, but it is what it is.
Right.
Excited to have you here, excited to chat a little bit. We were talking a little bit offline here about how rare of a breed you are being from Nashville.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, well, not that being from Nashville makes you a rare breed, but the fact that you stayed in Nashville
Right.
pursuing music kind of makes you a rare breed. But how's everything been treating you?
Everything's been great, honestly. In the last, I would say, in the last year, probably things have really started to pick up for me in terms of, working on things in the studio and playing more live gigs and kind of starting to hone in the audience piece. So I'm really excited because I've been around it like my whole life, but this feels like my turn in a way, so I'm excited.
Fair, fair, fair. How often are you playing shows right now? Are you playing pretty consistently, or?
Not super consistently, but I have been playing, like right now I don't have a full band situation. I'm playing like solo acoustic gigs, but originals and stuff. So I've been playing like, once a month, once every couple months, which, baby steps, we're getting
Yeah.
there. But I've been playing some cool venues that I've always really looked up to and wanted to play. So like Dee's
Nice.
Lounge and the Basement and little like local spots like that. So it
Yeah.
feels like milestones.
Nice. You're not necessarily going through the grind of playing on Broadway, but you're
Right.
playing some of the cool hip local spots that are
Exactly.
that
And the
that allow.
places that'll let me play original songs too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's the important part.
Right.
Like, I mean, nothing against the musicians that play Broadway and do the 4 hour cover gigs
Sure.
and sneak in the original song every now and then, because I completely understand those pay the bills, right? But
Absolutely.
when you kind of get addicted to the idea of, oh, hey, I can make money doing this and it's easy for me, where does the money or the love of the art versus the money, where does that kind of all intersect and come into
Exactly.
play and all
Yep.
that? So
I can never fault anybody for where they draw their line in the sand, but
yeah,
but it's certainly more rewarding for me to get to play to, crowds and play what I wrote. And so I don't take that for granted for sure.
nice, nice, nice. So where are you kind of at creatively right now? I know it's been you released your first single uh late last year, which is an absolutely amazing song. I enjoy it.
Cool.
Where are you kind of at creatively right now?
So I have there's two songs that were worked on at the same time as part of the same project that are currently being mastered. So I'm hoping fall time, maybe we're looking at November again, to put out those couple songs. But I have way more than that in the works that have been, you know, as an artist, it's always hard when you have to backburn or something and then
Mm,
you start something new and you get excited about the new thing. And then it's kind of it's keeping up with yourself as much as anything, like, okay, now I need to take a step back and look at, you know, where we're at on all these things and how to get them out into the world. Because if it were up to me, I would just have things sitting in my files on my phone forever. And,
mhm.
but it's important to kind of keep the ball rolling with all of that. So it has been, almost a year now since my last release, but I'm excited to put out the next couple things and keep it moving. So
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely nothing wrong with taking your time kind of the way you are, because like I feel like the worst thing you could do as a musician is put out two, three, or four singles right up against each other. Like, you know, say you started releasing four singles right there in November. It was like November, December, January, February. And then we sit here now almost in November again, and you haven't released anything.
mhm.
That would do more harm than good, because it's like, okay, she kind of stopped. Whereas with one single, and now hopefully by November you have another single or and just kind of
Right.
realistically doing what you can.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you saying that because, I think we all as creatives can kind of get into that rut of like, especially with social media and
Hmm.
comparison and everything. It's like, I have friends who put out, like you're saying, like, one a month or, they have a consistent output and I think that's great. And I love that for them. But also when I take a deeper look at it, I think a lot of those people are producing themselves and
Hmm.
engineer, like have more of a well-rounded, kind of do everything for themselves. And
Hmm.
that's also a beautiful thing. But I have to remind myself, I'm not an engineer for a reason. I'm not a producer. Like I have people in my circle that I love and I trust for that. And I, like you said, I want to take my time with it and not put out anything below my standard just for the sake of having things out.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I feel you. And I think as you kind of move forward in your career and kind of really start to establish yourself as a musician, because I mean, obviously you're out there, you've got a pretty decent following already, and you're playing gigs and all that fun stuff. But I feel like as you kind of get out there, you'll find a rhythm that works for you as far as like, okay, once a year, like initially once a year is fine, but like in the next year or two, you're going to realize like, okay, I need to do two or four, like do one a
yep.
quarter, or, like whatever it is. And you'll just kind of gradually get that ball
Mhm.
rolling. And it's not going to happen overnight. Like, and I think you know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process and I've learned so much. I mean, I'm very green still. I mean, I've
Mhm.
only really been playing, supporting myself. Like I played writers rounds before then, but really it was only a year ago that I started gigging and all of that, with all of that, I've just learned so much about, not only writing and
Mhm.
performing, but, recording and my own kind of production ear in the little
Mhm.
ways that the things that I've picked up on from other people. And it's all kind of culminating to where, it's only going to get easier from here, especially, I battle with my like perfectionism a lot. And I think as I get older and as I get more feedback, I think I'm starting to kind of act in defiance of that, you
Right.
know, because I think that's where a lot of the cool stuff lies. That's where like a lot of my favorite music is authentic in a way that like, if I were that artist today, I probably wouldn't put it out in the state that it was in, but I love it because it has all those markers of authenticity and,
Hmm.
a door closing in the background or someone talking and, all of those things are cool. And I think that especially with as much as like, you know, our technology's come such a far way and everything is so digital now. I think we're all starting to kind of have that perfectionism thing. And that's not what art should be.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so
And I
in,
mean,
in a roundabout way to answer your question, I agree.
yeah. And that's really cool that you kind of see that the perfection is in the authenticity
Mm,
and the perfection is in the imperfection. Like I'm sure we could all sit here and name songs that we think are like the absolute perfect song, but then you sit there and talk to the artist and it's like, oh, I missed that note, or you hear that, that's not supposed, just you
yep,
can nitpick anything you want to nitpick. And
exactly.
you
A
know,
great
eh,
example of that is like my dad always loved this example. He always told me this when we would talk about perfectionism was like when a man loves a woman, the horn section in that song is sharp the
yeah.
whole time. But no one cares. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if you really get nitpicky with it, it's out of tune, but it feels good and it conveyed the feeling of the song and so it did its job.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And then I'm sure growing up in Nashville, you've seen a lot of people come and go and burn themselves out in the industry. And so
Hmm.
does that kind of weigh on your mind as well? Kind of seeing all these people that come in and then a year or two down the line, they're like, okay, this is overwhelming. I'm gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's always been a thought in the back of my head. I think that, your own worst critic kind of
Hmm.
comes out from time to time. And I definitely see that happen a lot. But my dad's a musician and he's lived here for 40 years. He's from Indiana, but he's a piano player and he, toured live for many, many years, but
Hmm.
he, sticks to sessions now and he's like
Yeah.
retired. But seeing him move through his career in all of the ebb and flow of that and how he handled that and his advice to me, like all of that has been really, instrumental in me continuing to move forward. And, it's funny because a lot of my friends are like, oh, so your dad encouraged you to do music because he's a musician.
Mm.
I'm like, he actually heavily discouraged me
Yeah.
from doing music, not because of my talent or anything else, but he was like, hey, this is a really hard lifestyle and
Yep.
I don't want this for you, but I'm also not going to stop you. And I know better than to try. So,
Yeah.
I'm here
Fair.
for you, which I love.
Fair.
He's never been, he's never glamorized it too much. He's been very
Hmm.
real about it. And I think that just knowing that my whole life, it's an ebb and flow. You're playing the long game. You can't get too comfortable with short-term success and you can't
Hmm.
get too discouraged by, the ebb season. So I think that has majorly helped me kind of keep my mind sane through all of
Nice.
that.
Nice. So I have to ask, where in Indiana is your dad from?
Indianapolis.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
Yep.
I grew up in South Chicago, right on the Illinois-Indiana border, so I
Yeah,
just have,
nice.
yeah, I have to ask. Um, so anyway, so your dad heavily discouraged the aspiration of being a musician?
At least in the beginning, he was always very encouraging of my creativity.
Hmm.
He was just discouraging of the career path. So he always loved that my sister and I grew up in church singing together and stuff, and my dad would play for us. So we were always a musical household, and we were always, the creativity was emphasized for sure. I didn't really start writing until like high school though. I was kind of a late bloomer in that way. I didn't get a guitar until I was 15, and that's around the time I started to kind of dabble with all of that. So it wasn't until then that he was kind of like sat me down and was like, all right, here's the deal. And it's not always pretty. He's like, touring. He loves touring, but he's always been honest about that too, and the pros and cons to all of it. And he's just been very transparent. And I don't know that a lot of people, new artists who move to Nashville, are getting that kind of transparency.
Hmm. Yeah. They're kind of seeing the glamour of it
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
but not seeing the gritty reality of it either.
And like you said, working on Broadway, doing a 4-hour stint, and you're playing covers, and you might not make tips that Sunday. It's
Hmm.
like you might be working your butt off and still struggling, and that's a part of it. And it's almost, if you can, it's easier said than done, but if you can kind of compartmentalize it as like a rite of passage, it is like a fun part of the story
Hmm.
that's kind of necessary to get where you're going,
Yeah. Yeah.
helps.
Absolutely. Because I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of musicians out there that they may have seen the glitz and the glamour and been sold on sold on a story through rose-colored glasses or
Yep.
whatever, but then they saw the gritty reality of it and it didn't phase them. So like, I mean, there's definitely that out there because I feel like to kind of be in this industry and make the grind in Nashville the way it's kind of set up right now, you have to be built different. Like it takes a special kind of person to
Yep.
keep pushing through this. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you have to really believe in yourself, you
hmm.
know. And
Yeah,
that's a piece that I've had to work on a lot too, as far as, I've always enjoyed the music that I've made, but as far as believing like, oh, I think that more people should hear this,
right, right.
sometimes that's literally just the first step in that of like, you have to really believe in yourself when you're getting rejected, out there,
Yeah.
and it's gonna happen in a town that's this saturated.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So, when you first started pursuing music as like a career choice, did you know what kind of musician you want to be, or was there kind of like a trial and error portion of your life?
I would say there was a trial and error portion. I think as far as my writing and like my sound, I think I've stayed pretty consistent with that. I've definitely like explored other genres and I've broadened my horizons, but um as far as trial and error, I think that was more with like when I went to college. I went to MTSU,
Hmm.
and the first year I was studying audio production.
Hmm.
So I thought I wanted to be an engineer, and I thought I wanted to be more behind the scenes of it all. And that first year we really taught me. I was like, ooh, these are the 101 classes, and this is a little over my head. So
Yeah.
there was a pivot there where, and the only reason, if I'm honest with myself, the only reason I did that and was studying engineering was because I didn't have that confidence piece in my writing and my music yet. So I think that was the trial and error year of like, I'm still writing on my own, but I don't really want to play for anybody yet, you know?
Yeah.
And then switching my major over to commercial songwriting was the best choice that I probably ever made, because meeting all of the, just like-minded peers and the great mentors and professors and all of that, that really boosted my confidence in myself.
Hmm. Yeah. You don't hear a lot of people throw out MTSU, especially
Right.
being in Tennessee, in Nashville there. It's
Yeah, it's
usually
all Belmont, right?
Belmont. There's the occasional Vanderbilt,
Mm-hmm.
but other than that, it's mostly Belmont. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, MTSU, they're great. They're not, yeah, the unsung hero of Middle Tennessee.
nice, nice, nice. Oh, and then so you released your first single last November. How
Yeah.
long did that whole process kind of take of getting your first release out?
So start to finish, it was pretty long because um like I wrote that song like 95% and kind of was sitting on it for like
Hmm.
a year and a half probably, and just working on other things and forgetting about it. And I'll do that a lot where things will sit in my voice memos on my phone, and then I go back twice a year and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So it was about a year and a half after I mostly wrote it that I like finished it. And so I mean, it was probably 2 years before, from when I wrote it to when I put it out. But also because I've been so lucky to, like, my friend that produces me also goes to MTSU, and he's been able to, like, finesse a lot of studio time from the school and things like that. Like, we've been able to like utilize a lot of resources to
Hmm.
make it happen. And so, in using school studios and everything, like, I think that kind of took a little bit longer, but I'm also glad that I did wait as long as I did, because there were some decisions made kind of in the 11th hour that I think really made it for me.
Yeah,
So I think
absolutely.
sometimes, like, when you walk away from something for that long and then you come back with a fresh eye, sometimes that's the right move.
Hmm. Absolutely. It gives the song like an opportunity to mature. Like
Yes.
even if it's not a finished product, it's like it gives the thought a chance to blossom almost
Yeah,
essentially. So it,
exactly.
whether you do that intentionally, unintentionally, you'll come back to the song when it's ready.
I love
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Takes the
Oh,
pressure off.
right, right, right. Because like I mean, when you feel that pressure of feeling like you have to get a song out or you have to write a song, that's where like the commercialization of the entire industry comes into play. Because it's like, oh, I haven't released a song in 6 months. I've got to get a song. Then
Hmm.
then it becomes a job. It's not fun.
Exactly.
It's not a passion. It's just like, oh, we're hitting deadlines.
Exactly. And then it can quickly turn into you trying to create something for an audience instead of
Hmm.
yourself.
Yeah,
Because, if I think it was a Rick Rubin quote I saw earlier this
yeah.
week about that, where it's, you want to be creating things for yourself first and foremost. And in that, you're creating something for your audience.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times when there's pressure and there's deadlines and there's stress involved, our commercial brains start working and we're like, well, what do
Yeah,
people want to hear? And that's
yeah,
not what it should be.
yeah, for sure. Because like that, if you start making stuff that people want to hear, then they're just there for the music. Whereas if you're making stuff that you want to hear,
Mm-hmm.
they're there for you.
Yeah.
And that's how you keep, that's like how the Swifties and the
Yeah.
Bayhive or whatever the hell it's
Yeah.
called, that's why they're there because they're making music they want to hear
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yep.
fans are just invested.
I completely agree. I completely agree.
So,
If you're doing something authentically, I think that people just are going to flock to it.
mhm. I can't believe I made that reference, but you know what? It's a new day and age, I guess. Who knows? So,
And no judgment.
but so no, that's cool. I'm really excited to kind of see how things progress over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months for you. Like you've got a really strong first single out, and really excited to see what's 2 and 3 and 4, just like everything else you have going on kind of comes up. So, um, kind of in that vein, I know you said you're kind of in the mastering stage of, you said the next 2 singles.
Yeah.
Where are you at? Are you like also writing, or are you 100% focused on getting these masters done and then you'll kind of figure out writing again?
If I were smart, I would probably stop writing and focus all my energy on, all of the things that go into a release. But I'm always writing. I'm That doesn't always mean I'm completing things. And
Hmm.
that's also something that I've been kind of on myself to work on is, finishing something to completion in
Hmm.
one sitting. But it's, I'm doing co-writes and I'm writing verses and choruses and all of that simultaneously.
But be okay with the incompletion. Like, just
Mm.
keep writing. Like that was when I was a young content creator. I'll call it a content creator because I was a film student in college and I started doing films and I wanted to be a documentary
Oh,
filmmaker.
nice.
And then I kind of moved into more marketing promotion, so I've kind of now I just kind of call myself a content creator. But
Yeah.
early on in my life, when I was doing like more focused on documentaries, I always had these ideas and I would just kind of start throwing out these ideas and start like working on them. And then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, this isn't working. And I'd set it aside. And my friends would get mad at me. They'd be like, you're always working on something new. Just finish something. And it's like, no, it just doesn't work. Like this
Yeah.
doesn't work. Nobody cares, just, and I would tell them, they're like, I'm not interested anymore because you just don't finish anything. And it's like, I'll finish something I'm meant to finish.
Exactly. And they say don't rush art for a reason, and
Yeah.
like you said, I way more subscribe to the idea that, it's in its own timing. It's
Mhm.
all for a reason. Like if you stumble on something that you started 2 years ago, who knows what your fresh perspective is going to do for
Mhm.
it. And I think that there's a reason for all of it. All of
Mhm. I pulled out a film script that I wrote 12 years ago. I was cleaning out a Rubbermaid bin out of my closet the other day, and I pulled out a film script I wrote 12 years ago, and I was like, huh, let's revisit this. And now it's
it.
sitting
Right.
over here in the corner, and it'll probably be another 6 years before I look at it, but it's out of the Rubbermaid bin, so
Out of
it's
the
good.
bin.
Yeah. Um, but it's one of those things where if it's meant to be finished, it'll be finished.
I agree. I
So,
completely.
so kind of looking at your life outside of music, what do you like to get into? What do you like to do to kind of decompress and all that fun stuff?
Oh man, I do enjoy like a good walk at like Radnor Lake,
Hmm.
getting out in nature. Like I live like up in Old Hickory. It's just like a very walkable little community and just getting outside and getting fresh air is definitely great. Hosting, I love to host. I love
Nice.
having my friends over and cooking for them and things like that. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty boring outside of music just because so much of my time really is
Hmm.
dedicated to music. I work in marketing and like social media.
Nice.
So that's like it's nice because it's outside of my realm, but also
Yeah.
used in my realm. So
Yeah.
it all ties together. But yeah, I go to a lot of shows locally, and do a lot of that. So someone asked me recently about that. So what do you do outside of music? And I was like, I'm the wrong person to ask
Right.
about that.
Right.
Not
That's
much.
fair. Well, we're gonna geek out a little bit over marketing and social media because that just happens to be what I do to pay my
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah.
So are you working for like a private firm, like a company, or are you
I'm
freelance?
yeah, I'm freelancing.
Okay.
I'm freelancing for a couple like other creatives,
Hmm.
other artist types, like one's an author. And so it's fun for me to like before that for like 6 years I was doing marketing for a company for like it was a fashion startup,
Hmm.
e-commerce mostly.
Yeah.
And so moving from that to freelancing and working with individuals and working with artists was like
Hmm.
really, really nice. Like
Yeah.
I'm enjoying that a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying to make that transition right now. So I work for a TV station.
Oh, cool.
And so I handle the marketing for the station. So like all the news promos, I help the news promo team
Hmm.
produce all that. I also have my hands in commercials, so all the local mom and pop companies that need a TV commercial, I'm either editing those or, building those out. And then about 2 years ago, I was put in charge of our YouTube channel
Nice.
because it was the company that owns us really wanted to put an emphasis on YouTube,
Hmm.
and nobody on in our station knew how to run YouTube. They're like, we know YouTube, but we don't know YouTube. And I'm like, well, I have my own YouTube channel. I'm not saying it's very good, but it's there. And they're like, okay, guess what? You have access to the YouTube channel, go for it. And I'm like, all right. And
Nice.
so that's where my success is really kind of garnered, because they're just like, here's just do whatever you want. Don't get us sued.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
Yep.
So I've only gotten us sued once. So that's a win.
That is a
Uh,
win.
but it was yeah, that was a whole funny story. But anyways,
I love
um
that.
so I grew the YouTube channel from like 7,000 subscribers, and now I think we're about to hit 175,000.
Whoa.
So
So they made the right call.
yeah. And like I keep telling them, I was like, if y'all just let me focus on this 100% of the time, I could take this number, and I showed them the revenue number, and I was like, I could 10x this in 2 years, and it would pay for me. It would be enough money to give me my own little team to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, you could actually do that, and I'm like, yeah, 100%. So yeah,
That's awesome.
but it's fun, but like I kind of want to be either not maybe freelance, like because I already do a little freelance.
Mhm.
But it's so hit or miss. Like
Yeah.
it's like I'm
Yeah.
not telling you anything you don't already know. It's like,
Yeah.
whew, I
It's
don't know.
so,
Yeah,
so hit or
right.
miss. Truly.
But like if I could find a remote job working for an agency or something like that, I think that would be kind of the happy medium for me.
Right. I fully get that. Working from home is like the big step, you know?
Right. Right. Because for me, it's like I could go to Nashville, and I could travel because I like to travel. I like to go places. I could go stay with my dad. I could go stay with my sister. I could go to Nashville,
Love it.
that whole
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah. I love to travel too. Hey, add that to my list.
nice. What, so is that kind of the hope and aspiration, is to get out and travel and like play music?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd love to go all over doing that. Seeing my dad, when I was a kid, my dad would be out on a European tour for 4 months and I'd
Yeah.
just be Skyping him from his hotel in Switzerland. I'm like, that kind of looks like the life. I'm like, I know
Right.
it's not all glamorous, but some of it is.
Yeah. I so my dad was a pilot, and we had kind of somewhat, so there was a couple of years where he worked for a company where he would leave, like we didn't really know the difference, because he would leave at like 8 a.m., go fly to Iceland, and then be back by 6 or 7 p.m. So we just thought he had like a
Oh,
normal day job,
oh
but
my
he
God.
was working for like, it wasn't UPS, but it was a company like UPS where he'd fly like long freight.
Wow.
And
That's
so
crazy.
yeah.
That's so cool.
And so then he, like, when we got older, he would tell us all these stories. And I was like, was this before we were born? Like, you were doing this stuff? He was like, no, you guys were like in seventh and eighth grade. Like, and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, you don't,
That's so funny.
yeah.
It's like
And
the
so,
dad lord just dropped.
right. And it's like, Dad, I need to sit down and have a podcast with you, because,
Right.
like, I feel like there's a bunch of stories you just never tell us because it
Right.
doesn't come up in conversation.
Yeah, exactly. You've lived two lifetimes.
Right, right. Um, so kind of moving forward, you obviously are hoping to get the next two singles out in November, December,
Yeah,
throughout the rest of the year, whatnot. That's crazy in and of itself that the year's almost over, but
I know. Where has the time gone?
right.
Seriously.
It felt like yesterday was like June, and I was just coming back from Nashville, and now it's like, oh, I'm going to a music festival next week.
Yeah.
Year's almost over. Okay, cool.
So crazy to me. I'm like, Thanksgiving is going to be in the blink of an eye. It's none of it makes sense.
Right. luckily I don't do anything for Thanksgiving. I just kind of stay put. So I take
Oh,
that like
really?
4 days and it's just like, cool, nothing to do.
Yeah. See that? Oh, I have the craziest Thanksgivings. I have a lot of rednecks in my family.
Fair, fair, fair. See, back in the day, it was when my mom was still around. It was easier because we'd all go to my sister's or we'd all go to my parents' place. But she passed away a couple of years ago,
Oh,
and then
sorry.
my dad started dating someone, and so now he's got to go like with her family, and then my sister lives up in Indiana still, and so
Mm,
she's got her husband and his family and our extended family, and everybody's always like, "Oh, come here, no, come here, no, come here," and it's like,
right.
I'll come for Christmas. Like we're all together
Right.
for Christmas.
Yep.
Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving's cool, but
Yeah. One's
yeah,
enough.
yeah, right. So we'll figure that one out eventually.
Right.
So
Right. You still
um
got a little time.
right. So I don't want to keep you here too much longer though. If anybody wants to check out your current single, your upcoming releases, your social media, all that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
So you can follow my Instagram at audreyclaire.music. That's probably the platform I'm the most active on. I also have a TikTok, same username. And I post, some fun stuff over there that I don't post on Instagram and vice versa. But yeah, but I will be updating everyone on those platforms hopefully in the next few weeks. So
Nice, nice. What do you prefer, Instagram or TikTok?
That's a good question because I love them both for different reasons.
Hmm.
I love that TikTok has made it so like it's made the world so much smaller in a good way. Like I love that, you never know what cover is gonna do well and what,
Hmm.
you get a wider variety of an audience, I feel like on there. But Instagram's the old faithful. So
Yeah.
I would say right now TikTok's a little more fun for me.
Fair, fair, fair. I wish, I mean, I understand TikTok and I know how it works. It's just the podcasting content doesn't quite do that
Right.
great on there. It's
Yeah.
like, unless you got somebody telling a very emotional story and you put like the sappy music under it and,
Hmm.
kind of play it
Yeah.
up, it
Because
doesn't
that's
really,
the curse of TikTok is it's our attention spans are non-existent,
right,
if it's not contained in a 6 second clip, good luck.
right. And that's the funny thing is it's like I figured it all out at work, but here it's like, cool.
Right.
I'm drowning over here in my personal YouTube channel, but at
Yeah.
work it's like I throw one 8-second video out and it just goes millions of hits right off
Yeah,
the
that's
rip.
awesome.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't
You
know,
found the sweet spot.
right? Well, it also helps because I've got like thousands of people creating content for me that I just have carte blanche to use. It's like, oh, we got approved to use this. Cool. Throw it
Yeah.
up. We're good. And
Love that.
where here it's like, it's just me. Like
Yeah.
it's me and my content. So
Exactly. And I relate to that as far as working in marketing and then having to market yourself. It's like
yeah.
by the end of the day, you're just trying to watch a TV show or something.
Right.
I
Right.
cannot think about doing it for you.
Hmm. I that I today I was like I it was like noon and I was like I know there's like a dozen things I need to go do right now, but I laid my happy ass on the couch right over here and turned
Yeah.
on Scream 5 and I
Yes.
just like, okay, cool. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm happy. And then right before you jumped on, I finished Scream 6. So
Nice. Tis the season.
right. I was hoping to watch Scream 4, but it wasn't on Paramount Plus, or I
Oh,
couldn't find it easily. So I was just like, yeah, 5 will work. That'll be fine.
yeah. Let's
So,
just jump in on five.
right. Oh, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing that we like to do to kind of close out every podcast is we like to pass on knowledge or piece of advice, anecdotes, whatever you want to call it. So what's a piece of advice you have for the young musicians out there?
Ooh, I would say trust your gut creatively and don't get bogged down in the comparison game. I think
Mhm.
those are the top two because you'll always find somebody out there doing it better than you, in your opinion, or doing something different that you think is cool and you think it's cooler than your thing. But
Yeah.
knowing, like, trusting your own voice and knowing that you have something worthwhile to impart to the world that's what's going to keep you going and that's what's going to keep you sane because, music's so saturated. Everyone can do it on their laptops now. So everyone is doing
Mm.
it. And I think that it's easy to get discouraged by that, but I think it's even cooler because, there's so many more flavors in the world and there's so many more audiences that are waiting for what you have to put out.
Yep, 100% agree. Totally agreed. But really appreciate your time. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome back on anytime. So we'll definitely stay in contact and through Instagram and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if anybody's interested in checking out Audrey Claire's music, we'll have her Spotify link in the description below. Feel free to go check that out. And once again, thank you all so very much, and we will catch you all later.